Hello, this is Lindsay Madison Dunn, and today we're going to be doing some extended essay supervisor training. Our first objective is to grade a sample psychology essay, and once we do that, then our second lesson is actually going to have us corroborate the score we give it to make sure that what we're giving it is what an IB evaluator would give it. And then we can reflect on the criteria and make sure we fully understand how these suckers get scored. Our final objective is to examine the score of the sample essay for your subject area. So after this is all over with, you'll be getting a copy of an essay in your subject area, and you can see how these criteria get applied for your particular subject. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we need to do is actually get the sample essay, which can be found at this link here. So you just want to type this into your browser. It's pretty straightforward. personal.crocodoc.com/2 capital Y OK Z lowercase jk. And this will take you to an extended essay on Crocodoc. Once you type that in and you get there, if you'd like, you can actually download the essay into either a Word document or a PDF. Or if you'd like, you can just read it and go ahead and reflect this online version. The next thing you want to do once you actually get that loaded is load the rubric, which can be located on this URL. Very similar, it's just the last bit that's a little different. Lowercase d, capital K, that's an L, capital U, S3, lowercase p. And this will take you to the rubric. Where is that guy? Over here. So here's the rubric. I wanted us to look at a couple things before we actually go ahead and grade the essay. This is a sample of a rubric. It has the part that it's in bold here is just common for all subject areas. So everyone's rubric will have the part that's in bold. The part below that, which is not bolded, right down here, that part is actually specific to psychology, and for each of your rubrics, your specific area will have a different kind of bit right there depending on your subject area. Everything else is common for all the rubrics, for all the different areas, so we're just kind of look at a couple little things, and I just want us to be aware of a few things before we actually grade the essay. The first thing is that anytime you're grading an extended essay or anything in IB, you want to look at to what extent do they meet the very lowest bar, and if that really describes it, then you stop there. If they don't meet all the parts in the next bar, then you go to the one right below it. So let's say that they had stated in the introduction the research question, but they did not do this part. It was not going to lead to a systematic investigation. Then it would actually score a 0. The next thing I want you to be aware of is just that there's different parts. So there's research question, introduction. Part C is investigation. The extent to which the investigation is planned and appropriate sources have been consulted and data has been gathered that's relevant to the question. So that's really about the planning. And you'll notice over here you have all the parts that make it awesome. Imaginative range of sources, relevant material has been carefully chosen, and it's been well planned. So you can kind of get an idea of a feel for how the rubric works. And it would be great if you would keep track of comments here, and then that would help us really corroborate the kinds of things that I would see or that an evaluator would see and the kinds of things that you would see. You can see it continues. There's knowledge and understanding of the topic. And again, the thing about knowledge and understanding of the topic is you really want to think about to what extent is it really locating an academic context for the investigation, and to what extent does it really show a good understanding of the topic and locating its question in the investigation precisely in that academic context. And so that really means peer-reviewed journal articles. And if you don't have, I would say, 4 to 5 of those in the essay, then it's not going to really have any chance of having an academic context. So that's that. Reasoned argument. This is where you're actually looking to make sure that it makes sense and they're constructing an argument leading up to it and developing their argument in a logical, coherent way, and that also produces a convincing argument. So they don't just jump to conclusions, they're actually walking you through some of the thinking as they proceed to form their analysis. Then you have application of analytical and evaluative skills. And this is really, this has to do with the kinds of choices they're making and the kinds of reflection that they're taking in their analysis. The next thing is use of language appropriate to the subject. So as you're, sort of supervising this process, you want to make sure that they're challenging themselves to use the kind of terminology that would be used in your particular discipline. So they're showing an awareness of the higher level kind of academic jargon that would take place and understanding those concepts, and at least kind of pushing themselves to use those concepts correctly and appropriately. And also that their language is clear, that they're communicating in a way that makes sense and is precise. Finally, you'll start to get to the end of the essay where there's a conclusion, and really there's just two parts to the conclusion. They want to state the conclusion, obviously, and the conclusions that they come to and summarize should reflect what they did in the essay, what they found in the essay. But there should also be some unresolved questions or some possible limitations for future research, limitations of the study that could be addressed in future research. Formal presentation, this is one that's really important. This is a place where supervisors can really help students basically do well on the extended essay. So it's pretty much straightforward stuff. Do they have all the parts? Do they have the title page, table of contents, page numbers, all of those kinds of things? But then also, are they actually citing in a way that conforms to academic standards? And are they quoting everything correctly? And do they have accurate documentation for references, citations, and bibliographies? Note that if they don't have any one of those things, the highest that they can score is a 0. So, if they don't have any of the references, the highest they can score is a 0. If you just omit one of the requirements, you can only score up to a 2. So you can kind of note that with the formal presentation. The abstract is something that actually takes place at the beginning of the essay, after the title page and the table of contents. And it's just, it's a typical academic journal abstract. It should be able to clearly state the research question, how the investigation was taken, and also the conclusions. There is a 300 maximum word limit, and if it does all of those things, it gets a 2. So that's another really easy way to get points in the extended essay, and making sure that the kids actually have all 3 of those things really clearly outlined should give them all their full 2 points. If you're missing any one of those things, you get a 0. So it's really important to do all of those things and make it really clear to get the full 2 points. All right, holistic judgment. This is where you kind of show, did this student push themselves and really kind of explore and research a massive amount of material and really show some initiative in terms of trying to understand and push themselves a little further in their learning? Or did they just kind of do ho-hum and do kind of the usual or less than maybe they could have? And that's where this is your opportunity to kind of award them points and reward them for their extra effort. Down here you'll see I make sure everything is submitted to Turnitin, and Works Cited should be free of errors. That's an important part, just to make sure that we're not plagiarizing anything, and Turnitin actually checks for plagiarism, which is nice. So that when you go to do your supervisor's report, it's really easy to be like, yeah, I know this is that student's work, so I check on that. And I do that, you don't actually have to do that part. And then the next thing is you just kind of add up your score at the bottom here, and you'll see the boundaries are down here in terms of what score corresponds to what score you actually give it. So go ahead and take a minute and read the essay and give it a score.